Ever since I can remember, I've been fascinated by science and magic. A desire to fly, a desire to ride dragons, and a desire for the absolute craziest, wildest things. But in this universe, the real universe, the closest thing there is to that, in my opinion, is electronics. So when I was somewhere around 7 years old, my grandma gave me a pocket radio for my birthday, and I promptly took this thing apart and tried to understand it. There were strange coils, mysterious coloured nodules, odd little square towers I could twist and turn, and the whole thing infuriated me and entranced me as I tried to understand their mysteries. I became determined to solve them. By the time I reached secondary school, I was already covered in solder burns, permanently smelled of flux. I carried wires with me everywhere. I harassed my teachers, I genuinely did this, until they finally gave me access to the science labs. I spent my lunch times hidden away from everyone else, in rooms full of dangerous machinery. One, a metalworking lab I nearly cut my own wrist off with while a giant spinning drill took a steel box out of my hand. And chemicals, acids, and even radioactive materials. Yes, really, I was in the chemistry rooms, and there's boxes, wooden lead-lined box with radioactive materials in. And in these two rooms, I taught myself how to make PCBs. I was using, I believe, a 286 PC. It was running some software, possibly Leo, I think it was. I got a disk of that at some point, and I'd plot this directly onto the copper board with a plotting machine and a permanent marker. And then take it up to the chemistry labs and attempt to etch it, where I used up all the ferric chloride without knowing what I was doing until it was so weak it'd take 3 hours to etch a board. By the time I was 15, I suddenly discovered heavy metal and guitar. Actually, a friend, passing friend, Matthias, in Germany, when we were doing an exchange trip, introduced me. And that's it. This is what I wanted to do in my life. I threw aside my studies. I began to play constantly, day and night. But I was poor. I couldn't afford a decent amplifier, so I built one out of an old kitchen cabinet, some dodgy live fan that I found somewhere, 16 car speakers I bought for £1 a go off a outlet, and some MOSFET power modules from a company, I think it was BK Electronics or something. The result was huge, it was loud, and by the time I joined a band in the mid-90s, I was already making pedals for myself and everyone around me as well. Roll on a little bit further. Dropped out of school. Can't face it, can't do it, and I need income. We're signing on. I'm on the dole. I'm struggling. The local guitar shop we were hanging around in all the time found out I could solder. And he led me down to the basement full of broken equipment. People have been leaving things for him for years. They'd come in and say, I've got this amp, can you fix it? And he'd say, no. And they'd say, can I just leave it with you? Maybe one day you'll find a technician. And this had gone on for a long time. So he let me take my pick of honestly hundreds of pieces of equipment. And he said, just have a go. You can't make them worse. And so I brought back the success stories and started making money and also learning so much because I had this massive free reign. Now, one of the pieces of equipment that came in one day was an ultra harmonizer, one of those beautiful rack things. And it turned out, little to my knowledge at the time, that it belonged to Bryn Derwin Studios. It had already been to 3 different technicians, none of whom had succeeded in fixing it, and I just sailed for it and went, oh yeah, it's clearly that, fix it. The outcome was a brilliant man, Laurie Gain, contacted me and said, would I come do some work for him? And I was very honoured to accept. And so I ended up spending a lot of time at these residential studios, a really big place. Bands would come from all over the world to record in the Snowdonia Mountains. And this gave me a fantastic chance to work on really premium equipment, large format analog consoles, which had finally faulty transistors in, changed the capacitors, even rebuilt the power supply, some amazing rack gear. I can't even remember it, and I do remember though the full-size Hammond Leslie, which was terrifyingly dangerous with live 800-volt plugs. Time rolls on further, and I outgrew North Wales where it was. I really wanted to move out, move away, but there was no way to do this. I still had no significant money. It's just where it was. And so I actually met a girl, and she convinced me and said, why don't you go to university? Why don't you use go back to university, got the basic skills, and so I signed up for a degree in audio technology at the University of Salford and moved away, me and my best friend and everyone together, around 2003. Never intended to stay at the university. My goal was still to pursue my band, but I got on so well with everyone at the university, and I did so well there that I ended up just staying. And after a while, I started teaching, and they invited me to do some lecturing. I did a little bit and a little more, and I've covered all sorts of areas from audio maintenance, repairing things, designing recording studios, recording podcast radio shows, and expanding out into software programming, C++, C Sharp, websites, virtual reality, and eventually I even moved into getting a PhD in robotics. All the time in the background, building pedals, traveling to festivals, and generally having a brilliant life. It was a fantastic time. Around 2012, I became frustrated with the changes happening in the university. The culture was moving away from an academic focus to financial, as it did in every university. Those fee hike increases changed the culture. Suddenly, it was no longer universities scraping by and full of knowledge and low money. It was high money, highbrow, posh computers, but it changed what was happening. There were more hours to work, more responsibilities for the lecturers, less pay, being asked to mark things in our own time, being told that we couldn't have hours for updating courses and we should just, if we felt that was a problem, we'd do it in our own time, and less respect. I remember my friends, my line managers, my colleagues, and I got a room there, a little room, shared room, and they took it away from me and said, "Oh well, you're not good enough anymore." So I was beginning to get frustrated with this, but I'd also been running Audiostorm for quite some time at this point as a side hustle, years. And at the back of my head, I was thinking, do you know what? Maybe this should be my full-time business. So I started testing out these ideas while I worked. I made, at first, various solo booster pedals, overdrives, pretty straightforward stuff in the usual square chassis, coloured chassis, but they were very time-consuming to build. I was etching the circuit boards myself, and I knew they were basic, really. I thought I had the beginnings of an idea. So in 2017, I launched the original Tone Lord on Kickstarter. Very bold for me, very scary. Never done a Kickstarter before, never like it. This was my first sort of super serious pedal. Compact enclosure. I'd really tried to understand what made the pedal great. You know, any pedal, I mean, not just that one. I was pleased with the outcome. I thought it was a fantastic, neat little pedal. It had great sound. It worked really well. The feedback was super positive. I thought it looked good. My only grumbles with it were still a little generic. It's still just a rectangular pedal. The raw essence is there, but it just wasn't refined. Then 2019, the final straw at the university came when my wife was diagnosed with cancer. Now always comes first, and this coincided with me finishing the PhD, finishing other things that had happened, the general negativity, and I thought, right, this is it, time to leave. So we left, and that year's written off, moving on, worth the investment. February 2020, it's all over, it's all clear, cancer's clear, I'm ready to start my business. Bam, COVID-19. So Brexit has already happened in this time. I've been building pedals with just trying to ignore it. Brexit's underrun, cancer things happened. Now we've got COVID. So, that was interesting. But I registered the trademark anyway, moved on, started going through it. And in 2021, took the plunge and got serious, and I began formally working on Audiostorm full time. Everything was awful. It really couldn't be worse. Brexit closed those sales channels. It turned out COVID-19 had decimated the supply of components. I just couldn't get hold of the things I needed. And even though there'd been this huge surge in people staying at home, stay-at-home players buying pedals, I just didn't have anything to sell them. I wasn't ready. But I stuck to it. I, in 2021, delivered the Quad Screamer Kickstarter. And this was my second sort of serious pedal. It built on everything I'd learned. It was a huge evolutionary step for me. More usability, more complexity. I loved the trapezoidal pedal that I call a T-series. I loved the Alp switches. They had a really great size and feel, which was a huge leap forward over the Tone Lord for me. The jacks on the back shift into all sorts of different things. Still a few. The tone was amazing. Addressed the weaknesses, but still a few little things wrong with it. One of which was the build time was massive. It took ages to make these things, and there was other little things like the clicky foot switch. Mainly the build time. And honestly, if it wasn't for my good friend Michael Pepper, I probably would never have delivered them all and would have cracked, because he did a lot of the late night soldering for me. Thank you. By 22, moved on to the Grand Classic. The Grand Classic really was the actual breaking point. This third sort of serious pedal. There's a couple in between, but these are the big points to me. I overpromised. Some of you might know this. Massively overpromised during the Kickstarter campaign. It was just a bucket list. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm promising this. I'm featuring that. And at the time, it was very normal to use Kickstarter to fuel these potential ideas rather than refined ideas. So when it came to try and lay out the design, I realized it was physically impossible to fit everything in the box. I couldn't actually put the parts in the box, and my head just exploded. And I thought, now what? I have literally taken people's money to build this pedal, and I cannot fit it in the box. So I redesigned everything with 1/8 resistors, which are super tiny, but still through hole. And it fit, it was going to work, but I hesitated and I didn't order the circuit boards, because I looked at this thing and I thought, this is worse than that quad screamer by a country mile. This is going to break me. This is the end of Audiostorm now. You know, we've had everything, every disaster from Brexit through to COVID, and there's no way I can make these. And so there was another delay. However, in January of 23, I was offered a reflow conveyor for free. Massive industrial machine. Just come and collect it. Can't sell it. No one wants it. And on the back of this, I suddenly went, surface mount, SMD parts, surface mount parts are the solution. This fixes everything. I can fit everything into that box, and I can put all the resistors as mechanized parts placed by a machine. I can do the complexity I want. I have the control over it, the in-house production over it. I don't have to use through hole. Brilliant. You know, I love robotics. I've got a PhD in robotics. This is it. Build an army of custom in-house machinery that fits our values and ethos. We give up nothing, but we control the assembly, retain the human boutique value because we're involved at every step of the way. We evolve the process and build a cathedral to the machine and trust in it to carry us forward. I am so excited with this. At the time, you cannot imagine. It was insane. I begged, I borrowed, I stole to get everything I needed. I drove halfway across the country just to get a fume extractor because it was going to kill me otherwise with toxins. I drove a lot further down to the south coast to get this ex-industrial wave solar machine, which I had negotiated, and this is like a £30,000 machine for a couple of grand. The money came from all sorts of different places. I even borrowed off friends, and I paid it all back. It took a bit of effort. You know, people were amazing. And I got a pick and place, the Opulo Lumen, and proceeded to build that over the next, I don't know how long it was. Over and over I built it, because it turned out it did. Sorry, man. Sorry, Stephen. It was absolutely not ready for production, no matter what anyone was saying. It was just clunky and missing, and it was inaccurate, and it had so many quirks with this thing, but the basic heart of it was there, and I do robotics. So I rebuilt it in so many cool different ways. I modeled new parts in 3D and printed stuff that no one else has got. I rewrote the firmware to make it faster, neater, tidier. It was insane. I built an entire machine house, a workshop, an engineering city in a room. And eventually the machines ran, the rails glided, the motors turned, the vacuum pumps drew breath, the furnaces lit with that dull orange glow to burn the solder, and we delivered the Grand Classic, the Mugi and the MXP1, and I was over the moon. It was almost perfect, and I'm a perfectionist, so it's never going to be perfect, but gosh, it was close. quality in those pedals was and is to die for. I think the features are legendary. There is circuitry in there that no one has ever done. I mean, this is a big world with a lot of electronics in it. To claim that is bold, and I do claim it. There is circuitry in that I have never seen anywhere else. The artwork I was so happy with. The every other pedal prior to this, I've sort of struggled with the artwork. I've drawn it in drawing packages. I've got friends in to help. It was never quite right. This, with the wraparound art and the colours and the style, is exactly what I want because I'm a huge uh, artistic anime fan. The good stuff, you know what I mean? The art of it, I think it's legendary. I want something that captures the Tolkien-esque landscape in bold colours, and everything was spot on. Yeah, perfect. Because I missed a trick by not wrapping the artwork all the way around the right hand side. But apart from that, so good. I thought, this is it. We've done it. We're here. But no, not to be. Nothing is ever to be that simple, is it? So over the next few years, the next 2 years were challenging. I tried to take on staff, but the truth is I did not know how to manage people. I didn't get things right. Sometimes I just give them too much leeway, not enough instruction, not enough support, sometimes too much support sometimes, you know. Meanwhile, the bureaucracy and cost of living are soaring. I'm making less money. The world is generally on fire. Wars, tightening borders. We're all arguing. Everyone disagrees on the right process for everything. It makes manufacture hell. Meanwhile, compliance is ridiculous. Every day there's a new passport thing to fill out, a new form, a new thing. When I started, PayPal was sign up for your email and exchange money. Now it's verification, security, and withholding. Getting a business was as simple as paying a few quid and getting your name from company's house. Now we've got to have biometric identity and checks on your phone. It's crazy. She's spending all the time doing this. Meanwhile, I can barely afford to live. My debt is rising, my bills are rising. However, in 24, I also won a government grant for a very closely related project, which I won't go into here. And this just saved my business. It gave me a way to pay my bills and pay my debts while doing something really cool that could grow things. But it meant I wasn't making pedals. And those years were a great struggle. You know, by the time I got to the Tone Lord 2, because I wanted to relaunch the Tone Lord, that fell flat too. I put my Kickstarter together, I went to launch it, but expectations had changed. Everyone else in the world feels like me, a bit cheated, untrusting. The old culture I'd launched the Tone Lord within in the first place of let's throw an idea out there and hope someone backs it and takes a chance is gone. People on Kickstarter are like, we need your evidence, we need your prototypes, we need your proof. The commercialism has got into it. It's no longer a platform for challenging, interesting projects. It's a platform where big businesses are coming in and using it just to promote something they've already made. And everyone's on this. So I cancelled it. I had to cancel. I didn't have to, but I think it was the right decision. I cancelled it and then launched it directly. So I think of these last 2 years as a huge struggle. I got through it. I launched the pedal, but I never got the attention I wanted. I never got the reach I wanted. And even though the reviews I had were brilliant, it just, without that momentum, it's still waiting to be discovered. I would say the Tone Lord 2 is still waiting to be discovered. And when it is, people are going to realize, I really believe they'll find it an amazing pedal. During the year of 25, last year, I had a couple of staff, but in the end, I couldn't afford to keep them. Absolutely fantastic people. And I ended the year frustrated, sick of filling in forms with very poor reach on everything, no matter how hard I tried. 2026, this year, we're only a few months in, it's April. Deus e machina. God is the machine. A fresh start. No staff, just me and the machines. And I started thinking to myself, what have I built? And I worked on the other world. I contemplated the structure of all the last decade and more of this business. I started to realize Audiostorm, to me, and hopefully to you, it isn't a company, but it isn't an individual. And the word I came to settle on was mythos. I've always been a dungeon master in the game sense, a world builder, a creator, a magician, someone who just pushes. And I want this to be a mythic experience for everyone who's involved. Machines are the heart of what I do. Machines as tools. The Orange Catholic Bible. Not cold, thoughtless, automated, churning engines, how everyone uses them. Not intelligent things that take over tasks, but machines as an extension of our humanity, an extension of our skills. Machines as a means not to replace ourselves, but to do things that we cannot do otherwise. More precision, more speed, better sight, sight beyond sight. And I started contemplating the commitment to this, and I realized that over the years I'd placed myself in this weird halfway house too. I was neither affordable, I mean, my products are not £59, they're not £99, but I wasn't really embracing maximum quality. I was always thinking, what's the minimum I can sell this for? What's the line we can put this up for? And because of that reluctance, I don't think I've been giving you guys the full experience you deserve. I'm sitting here in this awful middle place and I'm giving it up. This is the year we get serious. This is where it all turns. These pedals, these artifacts, they are built with astounding complexity and incredible precision. There are so many parts in them. There's so much stuff happening under the hood. And I don't want you to have to see or understand that, only know it's there. I need to accept the truth of what I'm making so that you can get the best from it. And this is a change for me, a huge change, and it's a big acceptance for me. I have to accept that I am not making budget pedals. And that's kind of hard for me. I like the idea. In my heart, I want to make something that everyone can have. But either I make something everyone can have and it's mediocre, or I make something amazing that has to be earned, has to be attained. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me show you what we make. Me and the machines. Come to our church and let me show you our wonders.